Hey guys, Papa Pete back again today with the next episode of INTY Homebrew Spotlight. And today, Coco and I are going to take a look at another game by Carlos Madruga that was released and published by Intellivision Revolution. And that is Antarctic Tales. Very interesting game, a little bit different style. It's not a space shooter. It's a penguin trying to run around Antarctica. So it's really pretty interesting and a great take on a genre which maybe you may not immediately recognize. Anyway, guys, stick around. We'll be back in just a moment with Antarctic Tales.
Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. If you haven't grown up by the age of 50, you don't have to.
In Antarctic Tales, you play a little penguin as he tries to race around Antarctica through 10 different timed races per se to do a complete lap of the continent itself, Antarctica, as increasing obstacles get in your way with each level. Now, I use that term racing very intentionally because, frankly, this seems to me to be a take on a different type of racing genre. It's not a car, it's not a vehicle per se, it's just the penguin running around the island. But it really is, in all essence, just like a racing game. It reminds me a lot of Pole Position or Turbo on the Intellivision, but probably more like Pole Position than anything else. It's just not a car. Like I said, your obstacles are you have to move back and forth to avoid them as you run and try to beat the clock to reach the end of each individual section. The basic controls of the game are moving the penguin back and forth using the left and right sides of the disc, and you also control your speed by pushing up or down on the disc, but basically you're always trying to go as fast as possible. If you run into an obstacle, it always slows you down to the slowest speed, and you tap up on the disc to get it back up to top speed. You can tell by the indicator up in the upper right hand corner that shows 2 bars when you're going the slowest or 6 bars when you're going the fastest. And you see the clock up in the upper left hand corner? That's how much time you have to finish that stage, and if you fail to finish the stage and reach the port within that time, the game is over. Now, each stage is differentiated by the objective of reaching a different fort from various countries around the world. There's actually a couple duplicates within the 10, but it's really kind of neat. It's a good idea that each time you finish a stage, you reach a different country's fort, per se. This game never truly ends. It is a matter of getting as high a score as possible, so you can do multiple laps. But man, it's pretty hard to do so because frankly, I've never even been able to get around one complete circuit of Antarctica. I've gotten to stage 7, that's as far as I've gotten, and it's pretty challenging. I'll have to practice quite a bit more before I can do so. Now, some of the obstacles that you have to deal with as they appear as you get into further and further stages within that first lap. And there's things such as puddles, which can hold you up. There are crevices which you can fall into and have to jump out of. There's seals which come up out of the puddles, and even though you can jump over the puddles, you have to avoid the ones with seals in them because the seals will stop you dead in your tracks. There's also things that help you on your way, for example, flags. Now, most flags, which are green, just give you some points at the end of the game. But there's also flags that are purple and cyan, and they are worth quite a few more points, but they also give you little bonuses like making you float for a while to really get a lot of distance in, avoiding obstacles as you go. So always try to grab as many of those purple or cyan flags as possible. Overall, this really does remind me completely of a racing game. You have the momentum as you're going around the corners. It pushes you off towards the outside. It's more difficult to control the nature of the penguin as it's going around a corner as opposed to being straight. And when you go to turn and move across the screen, of course, it's very influenced by the direction that you're going at that time. It's really kind of tricky to do it. I know that my instinct was to push hard on the controller when I found actually later on that just a light touch of the controller was more effective for me. I'm not great at the game yet, but just using that little bit of advice made me a little bit better and got me through a couple of extra stages as I was trying to get around that first lap. The graphics in Antarctic Tale are very good. They've done a very good job putting it together. It's very colorful. I did notice a few graphical glitches, and one thing that I've noticed as well is as the things are coming towards you, both the obstacles as well as the flags that you're trying to run into, they actually don't appear very far ahead of you, and they're kind of hard to react to be able to pick up precisely. It's almost a little bit more of anticipation, maybe memorizing where they're going to be, when they're going to appear, because I believe each level that you play is the same. Every time you go around, the flags, the puddles, everything's going to be in the same spots. You could develop a routine. That's not really a bad thing, because most games at that day and age were like that. Skiing games, etc., sort of remind me in the same fashion of a game like this. But really, again, not a negative thing, but it would have been nice to be able to see the obstacles and the benefits, the flags and the fish, coming a little bit further in advance so you could react to them appropriately. That being said, the seals look kind of neat. Okay, they look okay. The penguin itself looks good, although you're looking at the back end of the penguin most of the time, and it's really a very simple animation as it's moving forward. But in the areas, like at the end when you get to the fort, he turns around, the graphics look pretty good for the penguin. It does look like a penguin. It looks a lot like Duncan from Thin Ice, frankly, although it's not formally named Duncan in the manual. So are these the best graphics I've ever seen in a television game? No, not at all, but they're still very good, and I think Carlos has done a great job putting them together. There aren't a whole lot of sound effects in Antarctic Tales, but there's things like the beep when you jump, there's the sound of when you run into a seal. There's other things like the sound of catching either a flag or a fish, or the little musical notes that come when you hit one of the purple or cyan flags and float ahead. There's also as you're running out of time at a stage, the sound that it gives you to warn you that you're almost out of time. But the best part of the sound in Antarctic Tales, frankly, is the music. The music's been done by Yandere to go along with the sound effects by A. Carlson, and frankly I think they're probably the best thing about this game. There's a couple different tunes that are played as you're running the stages, and there's also a couple tunes, one at the beginning of the game and then one as you finish up as well, plus the end of stage tune that plays when you reach a fort. Overall, pretty much all the music Nyandere's done for these games, it really is above average. It's very good, and it's really enjoyable to listen to, so right on with the music. First of all, I want to let you know that this game is no longer available from Intellivision Revolution. It's sold out. He had it on the website for about 3 or 4 months, actually. I suspect that if you would like to get another copy, the best thing to do is go to Intellivision Revolution, find the email link, get in touch with them and tell them I'd really like to buy one, and they'll probably create some more and bring them back in stock. That being said, you still can buy a ROM version direct from Carlos himself, which is available via a link on Atari Age. I'll put a link to the place where you can go to buy this complete set. You get the ROM, you get the manual, the overlays, box art, everything. You get it in a nice package for only $10. And again, the link is in Atari Age. I'll put it down in the description below, as well as you can see the page right here where you could find it. One thing about it as well is, again, the original box version was the original edition, but for the ROM, they've created the enhanced edition. And there's a couple things with the variations that are added, but the most important one to me is you automatically jump over obstacles when you come to them. If you hit them on the edge, you still could hit the obstacles, but it jumps for you automatically. And frankly, that's really a good thing. It doesn't take away from the gameplay at all, because I can see where using the side button to jump each time you came to a puddle, they're on you quickly. Would be almost impossible. It would be just plain old too hard, and it's challenging enough as it is with the enhanced edition, with the jumping being automatic. If you hit a puddle right off at the edge, you'll still hit it. You won't jump over it. You have to hit them right in the middle or miss them altogether. So it's really tricky to do that, especially when you're going around a corner, because the whole time that you're trying to position yourself, centrifugal forces push you towards the outside. So it's really pretty challenging, and the enhanced edition, the fact that it jumps for you, doesn't take a thing from the gameplay, in my opinion. I think it just makes it that much better, because without that capacity, I really believe the game would be much too hard. Now, as for other variations, it is just a one-player game, but there's also codes that you can enter. Now, unlike H.E.L.I, which I found the codes really gave some great variety, these codes are a little bit more superficial, frankly. There's codes like you can enter 1867, enter Canada mode. Every fort at the end of every stage is Canada. There's also a Brazilian code, 1822. You end up going to every single stage, every fort is Brazil. Then you have German Unity, which you enter 1990, and every outpost is from Germany. So those are kind of frivolous, really. They don't add a whole lot to the game, but there is one code that you'll probably want to try out, at least a little bit, to see a little bit more of the game maybe, or to see what's going to come up in the next level if you're having difficulty beating a certain level, and that's training mode. If you enter 1002 into your code, you'll start off in trainer mode. And it's really not a whole lot of fun, but it does get you to let you see what's coming up in levels that you can't get to otherwise, because there's no contact with anything. You run right past all the obstacles. You can't catch any of the flags or fish either, but it's basically just to give you a look at the different stages. Now, truth be known, trainer mode was already in the original version as well. It just wasn't noted in the manual with all the other codes. Now, there's a couple other codes of the game as well. There's a code that lets you start on lap number 2, meaning it's all a little bit harder. There's even a code for lap number 3, which is that much harder again. But as you play the game and take a look through the manual, you'll see different codes that you can use. There's even like a mode called Tuxedo mode, whereas if you enter 1610, it's like dark skies, and every fort is a penguin fort. I don't really know what that means. I haven't tried it out yet. And there's tons of fish to eat. Kind of neat, a neat addition, but really kind of very much novelty codes for this game. So what are my final thoughts for this game? Well, I do like racing games, and this reminds me of a racing game. I find the controls okay. I find the centrifugal force very difficult to control the penguin back and forth. I can't possibly imagine having to jump at the same time, so I definitely recommend the enhanced mode, because I don't want to have to hit the button every time to jump, because it would be extremely, extremely difficult. The music's great. I really do enjoy the music in the game and the sound effects. I think they did a great job there, and it's a fun game to watch and to play that way. Overall, I'm very happy to have Antarctic Tales in my collection. That being said, graphics, very, very good. The music, even better. Gameplay is okay. I don't know if it's a game that I'd want to play over and over and over again, but still, it is quite well done. So, all these things taken into consideration, I am going to give Antarctic Tales a 6 out of 10 rating. Well, guys, that's it for today's episode of INTY Homebrew Spotlight. I really enjoy looking at these homebrew games. Very happy to take a look at Antarctic Tales today, and I can't wait till I find another game to take a look at in the very near future. Coco, did you have a good time today? I know I did, so please, if you would, hit like, comment, subscribe, and Coco and I will see you next time. You take care.
Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. If you haven't grown up by the age
I'm Rick Reynolds of the Intellivisionaries Podcast, and you're watching Papa Pete, the old guy gamer.
what the